The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. A figure in a sharp suit kept his head down, slipping out of the side doors of Madison Square Garden and into the sweltering New York night. While the party of the decade raged on inside, the greatest quarterback of all time was calling an early audible. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
Man, that intro paints quite a picture, doesn't it? Just like the contrast of this massive celebration inside and then, someone desperately trying to escape it unnoticed on the outside.
It really does, yeah. And for you listening right now, our mission today is to pull back the curtain on what has to be, honestly, the most hyper-secret $20 million+ event in modern history.
Without a doubt.
Right. We are talking about the wedding of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. We're taking a deep dive into reports from TMZ, Variety, Page 6, and a bunch of others to piece together exactly what happened inside Madison Square Garden on July 3, 2026. Because the headline that immediately sent the internet into an absolute frenzy wasn't about the bride's dress.
Nope, it wasn't.
And it wasn't about the groom either. It was about NFL legend Tom Brady sneaking out of the wedding at 10:00 p.m.
Which is, frankly, incredibly early for an event of this magnitude. I mean, the night was just starting.
Exactly.
But to understand why that early exit became such a massive pop culture talking point, we really have to look at the unprecedented, literally suffocating buildup to this night. The level of secrecy surrounding this event was just staggering.
Suffocating is definitely the right word. Like, if you're listening to this and you've ever planned a wedding, you know the headache of organizing a guest list of, say, 100 people, right?
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Now, imagine scaling that up to 1,000, all while dodging a literal global intelligence gathering network of paparazzi and obsessive fans.
Precisely. And, they managed it by deploying this massive multi-million-dollar smokescreen. For weeks, the media was absolutely convinced this wedding was taking place at a Rhode Island mansion.
Right, I remember that. Everyone was talking about Rhode Island.
Yeah. There are these intense rumors, and prediction markets literally saw $2 million wagered on that specific location. Luxury event planners in New England were being hounded by the press.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah, they were forced to publicly deny any involvement. It was this highly coordinated misdirection. Because the whole time, the real plan was unfolding right in the middle of Manhattan.
This is insane.
They secured civic permits to close the streets around Madison Square Garden from July 2 to midday July 4.
See, that is the part that completely breaks my brain. How do you quietly shut down Midtown Manhattan on a major holiday weekend? The logistics of that are civic, not just private. You're dealing with the NYPD, the Department of Transportation, unions, everything.
You're dealing with massive urban infrastructure, and then they layered literal TSA-level security on top of it. They essentially built a temporary fortress.
Wow.
Guests were subjected to tiered security checkpoints, non-disclosure agreements, strict device checking protocols, no phones whatsoever.
I mean, you have to, when you're dealing with a guest list of roughly 1,000 people that felt like the Grammys, the Oscars, and the ESPYs all just jammed into one room.
Right, and they didn't even use traditional hard copy invitations.
Because someone would leak it.
Exactly. The risk of someone leaking a, gold foil invite to TMZ was just way too high, so they used encrypted digital comms.
That is wild.
Yeah.
But let's look at the venue itself, because according to TMZ, they took the drab concrete interior of Madison Square Garden, which, let's be honest, usually smells like stale beer and hockey sweat.
Yeah, very true.
And they completely overhauled the architecture. They used massive cranes to bring in these white staircase banisters, lush foliage, knobby tree branches. They built an actual functioning greenhouse inside the arena.
A full greenhouse.
Yeah. The vibe was described as Alice in Wonderland meets The Wizard of Oz.
The mechanism of pulling that off is just a marvel of staging. I mean, you have union crews working around the clock to suspend rigging from the ceiling of MSG just to support this massive floral canopy.
Yep, unbelievable.
You take one of the most heavily trafficked corporate arenas in the world, and you force it to become this immersive, surreal garden. It's a complete disruption of the space.
But that disruption brings us right back to Tom Brady. Because at around 10:00 p.m., Page 6 photographers spotted him leaving the venue, head down. And it wasn't just him.
Right, it was a whole crew.
Yeah, comedian Chris Rock, Hugh Grant and his wife Anna Eberstein, and Good Morning America host George Stephanopoulos, they all slipped out before midnight. Now, I have to push back on this, Jamie, because I'm just not buying the usual excuses.
What do you mean?
People online are saying, oh, it was a long day. Wait, I'm sorry, but Tom Brady has spent his entire life playing in front of 80,000 screaming fans at the Super Bowl. He thrives in chaos.
Well,
You're telling me a greenhouse wedding was too much of a sensory overload for him? Like, leaving this wedding early is like leaving the Super Bowl at halftime. You just don't do it unless you have to. What's the real story here?
okay, I hear you, but it's a completely different type of chaos, and that distinction is crucial. When you are on a football field, you have, what, a 50-yard buffer between you and the crowd?
That's true.
You are the spectacle, sure, but you are physically insulated from it. A VIP pit inside a faux greenhouse at Madison Square Garden is a highly claustrophobic environment. There is zero personal space.
Okay, so you're saying it's less about the noise and more about just the access people have to you.
Exactly. Imagine being in a room where every single person is a power player. It stops being a party and becomes an exhausting networking event.
Oh, that sounds awful, honestly.
Right. You are navigating this incredibly dense crowd of high-energy pop culture figures, a massive production scale, and an environment designed to be intensely visually and audibly stimulating.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
For an older Hollywood veteran like Hugh Grant or, a retired sports legend like Brady, navigating that dense social matrix for more than a few hours is just draining.
Fair point.
Contrast that with the younger crowd of pop stars and influencers in attendance who are biologically and socially conditioned to shut down clubs at 3 a.m. Brady leaving early isn't a slight against the couple at all. It's just the reality of attending a corporate-scale gala that is masquerading as a personal milestone.
That actually makes total sense when you frame it as a networking gauntlet rather than just a party. You hit your quota for handshakes and you bounce.
Exactly. You make your appearances and you get out.
And honestly, it really sets the stage for the bizarre dual nature of this entire wedding. Because while the scale of the venue was totally corporate, what the bride and groom actually wore and who they chose to stand beside them broke literally every traditional wedding rule in the book.
Oh, they definitely threw the rule book out the window.
Totally. And by the way, if you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We got even crazier stories ahead, and you won't want to miss the breakdowns we do.
So getting into the actual ceremony, I'm really curious how you interpret their structural choices here, because Swift and Kelce have built empires on being these all-American, highly traditional public figures.
Right. Very classic Americana.
Yet they completely subverted expectations when it came to the actual mechanics of getting married.
Oh, they totally flipped the script. And this is where I think they played an absolute genius PR move. So you have 1,000 people in the audience, right? You'd expect a massive star-studded bridal party to match the scale of the room.
Right, like 15 bridesmaids and 15 groomsmen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But instead, they scrapped it entirely. No bridesmaids, no groomsmen. Taylor's younger brother, Austin Swift, served as her man of honor, while Travis's older brother, Jason Kelce, served as his best man.
Which is so smart, because by eliminating the traditional bridal party, they neatly sidestepped the inevitable media circus and internal politics of, who made the cut and who didn't.
Right. Because think about the VIP bottlenecking. If Taylor Swift picks one famous pop star to be a bridesmaid, 50 other famous friends are going to feel slighted.
Oh, absolutely. The drama would be endless.
It's like trying to draft your ultimate fantasy team, but instead of stressing over a 53-man roster and managing all those giant egos, you just pick your 2 franchise players, your brothers, and call it a day.
That's a great analogy.
The fans absolutely loved it online, too. They were praising them for avoiding any bridesmaid drama. But then they threw another total curveball with the officiant. They had actor and comedian Adam Sandler officiate.
Which I think is a brilliant mechanism for deflating tension. I mean, Sandler is a longtime friend. He even gave Kelce a cameo in Happy Gilmore 2 recently.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. And he just seems like the perfect choice to cut through the heavy formality of a massive arena wedding. George Stephanopoulos actually gave a statement to NBC News about it, which in itself is rare given the strict no-phone policies and NDAs.
Right, nobody was talking.
But he noted the vows were, quote, real, vulnerable, serious, and silly, deeply loving. He even asked the rhetorical question, who knew that a wedding in Madison Square Garden could be so intimate?
Okay, see, this is where I struggle, and I really want to challenge this narrative. Is this going to be the new trend for mega weddings? Stripping away the massive bridal party just to claim you kept a tiny shred of family intimacy, all while sitting inside a 20,000-seat arena.
I mean,
It feels like a massive contradiction to me. You can't rent MSG and then say, oh, but we're keeping it small and intimate.
it is a paradox, I'll give you that. But it's a necessary one when you reach that echelon of fame. When your entire life is consumed by stadiums and massive crowds, intimacy isn't about the size of the room anymore. It's about who is standing next to you.
Okay, that's fair.
Having just the brothers and a close comedian friend on the altar served as this emotional anchor. It balanced out the massive corporate scale. They engineered a micro-environment of true family connection within a macro-environment of 1,000 A-listers.
And they did it while draped in some of the most exclusive, hyper-expensive fashion on the planet.
Oh, the fashion logistics are extraordinary in their own right. Both the bride and groom wore custom Christian Dior Haute Couture.
And Travis went with a white tux, right?
Mhm.
That's a bold move to pull focus alongside the bride.
Yes, a white tuxedo for Kelce, and Swift wore this stunning long gown with a sweeping train. But the real story here is the designer. The looks were designed by Jonathan Anderson, the creative director of Dior.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and this was actually Anderson's first ever couture wedding dress for a world-renowned celebrity.
Which raises the question, how on earth do you design, fit, and tailor a custom Dior wedding dress for the most famous woman in the world without a single sketch or fabric swatch leaking to the press?
It requires literal military-level compartmentalization.
I bet.
You use dummy NDAs, you put fake designer names on the call sheets, and fittings happen in secure, private residences rather than studio ateliers. They collaborated closely under total lockdown.
Wow.
Furthermore, both the bride and groom wore custom Christian Louboutin shoes, and Taylor accented her look with Cartier jewelry.
Just incredible.
It was the absolute pinnacle of high fashion, which contrasted beautifully with the deeply personal, casual choice of having Happy Gilmore officiate the ceremony.
It's the ultimate high-low mix, right? Haute Couture and Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
I love that dynamic so much. And hey, later in this deep dive, we'll talk about the late-night crew who shut the party down at 1 a.m. and the shocking $26 million twist nobody saw coming.
Yeah, to really appreciate the duality of this event, we need to rewind slightly to the night before the wedding. Because the contrast between the main event and the rehearsal dinner illustrates exactly how they compartmentalize this massive celebration.
Right. So on July 2nd, the night before the huge MSG blowout, they held an exclusive 100-person rehearsal dinner at the Infosys Theater. So they went from 1,000 people, the industry networking event, down to just 100 of their absolute inner circle.
And the details from that dinner show a totally different kind of luxury. Guests were presented with these incredible keepsakes. They were black velvet boxes etched with the letters TNT. And inside was a photograph of the couple printed on frayed fabric, sitting alongside a large, diamond-adorned champagne flute.
I'm sorry, did you say a diamond-adorned champagne flute?
I did.
Why do billionaires give other billionaires diamonds as party favors? It feels almost absurd, you know?
Well, it's not really about the monetary value to the recipient. It's about signaling inner circle status.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when you have 1,000 people at the main event, you need a tangible way to tell the core 100 people you are the actual family. The diamond flute is a physical manifestation of that specific tier of intimacy.
That's a really fascinating way to look at it. The gift isn't the gift, it's a status marker.
Exactly.
But let's fast forward back to the wedding night. Because while Tom Brady was calling it a night at 10 p.m. and, taking his status marker home early, there was a whole other faction of guests who were there for the long haul.
The diehards. The people who treat an MSG party as a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. The late-night exits were basically a who's who of pop culture stamina. Yeah. You had Selena Gomez, Gigi Hadid, and Bradley Cooper all leaving together around 1 a.m.
Wow, that is late night.
And you had Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, who stayed late, which I just think is fantastic. Imagine Andy Reid hanging out in an Alice in Wonderland greenhouse at midnight.
That's a great image.
Not to mention all the other notable guests mingling throughout the night, like Ed Sheeran, Patrick, and Brittany Mahomes, and even Stevie Nicks, who reportedly performed.
The inclusion of Stevie Nicks is a brilliant touch, honestly. It bridges that generational gap of rock and pop royalty. But what's really compelling here is the boundary they established between the interior of MSG and the exterior streets of New York.
Right.
Inside, you have Stevie Nicks performing under strict no-phone policies, this heavily guarded, heavily curated intimacy. But outside, they allowed the event to become a massive public spectacle. They let the city participate.
It was absolute chaos outside, but like managed chaos. You had
Yes.
a sweltering 100-degree heat wave, and fans, obviously the Swifties, were gathered behind NYPD barricades just to be near the building singing Love Story together.
Yeah, the footage of that was wild.
And then, as if they ordered it from a production menu, a rainstorm began. The Empire State Building lit up in light blue, which was a gorgeous nod to the something blue wedding tradition.
Very clever.
Kansas City's Union Station lit up in their honor. And MSG's massive exterior jumbotrons flashed hot pink with the words, "Justin T. married."
See, it is a masterclass in modern public relations. When you are that famous, you cannot completely shut the public out without causing resentment or, frankly, a literal riot.
Right, you can't just ignore them.
You have to feed the beast. By lighting up the Empire State Building and flashing the jumbotrons, they gave the public a bone. They gave them just enough of a spectacle to feel included in the narrative without compromising a single frame of the actual privacy of the vows inside.
They distracted everyone with the lights outside so no one would try to break down the doors to get inside. It's so brilliant. But there was another move they made that proved this wasn't just an exercise in massive celebrity excess, right? What was the twist that kind of anchored all of this?
The twist was the philanthropy. Ahead of the wedding, Swift and Kelce reportedly donated a staggering $26 million to various charities.
$26 million. That is not a small sum, even for billionaires.
Yep.
Why do that right before the wedding?
It serves a dual purpose, really. On a human level, it ensures that this massive cultural footprint results in tangible, real-world good.
Right, obvious.
But psychologically, and from a PR perspective, it acts as an anchor. When you are spending upwards of $20 million on a private party in the middle of Manhattan, you invite intense scrutiny and wealth backlash.
Oh, people love to criticize that kind of spending.
Exactly. A preemptive $26 million charitable donation acknowledges their immense privilege and effectively neutralizes the critique of excess.
It's the ultimate shield against criticism. You can't be mad at the Diamond Champagne Flutes if they just funded dozens of charities.
Nope, it changes the conversation completely.
This wedding was such a massive cultural touchstone that literally everyone was being asked about it across the entire spectrum of American life. For example, U.S. President Donald Trump was asked about the wedding at the White House, and he simply wished the couple a lot of luck.
Oh.
Yeah. And just to be completely transparent with you listening, we are impartially reporting these facts exactly as they appear in our sources. We aren't taking any political sides here. We're just conveying the sheer reach of this event because when a U.S. president is taking questions about your wedding venue, you know you've broken through every conceivable demographic.
It perfectly illustrates the gravitational pull of their combined fame. They occupy a very rare space where sports, music, Hollywood, and national news all intersect.
They really do.
The fact that figures from across all spectrums felt compelled to weigh in demonstrates that this wasn't just a wedding, it was a major American cultural event. It was treated with the same weight as a royal wedding in the UK.
It really was our version of a royal wedding, wasn't it? The duality of the whole thing is just gripping to me. You've got extreme exclusivity and secrecy on the inside, paired with this massive public celebration and a $26 million philanthropic giveback on the outside. Hey, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next on Starscope Report.
When you synthesize all these mechanical elements, the decoy locations in Rhode Island, the TSA-level security, the subversion of traditional bridal parties to avoid VIP politics, the diamond status markers, and the charitable donations, what's truly remarkable is the total control they maintained.
Yeah, they had a tight grip on everything.
In a world defined by influencer culture, where every meal, every vacation, and every private thought is broadcast for instant consumption, Swift and Kelce managed to keep the interior of their wedding entirely dark.
Which is almost impossible today.
They enforced those strict no-phone policies, utilizing things like yonder pouches and severe NDAs successfully. They gave the public the blue Empire State Building and the pink billboards, but they kept the actual experience for themselves.
Which really makes you wonder, especially if you're listening to this and checking your own social media feeds right now. In an era where we voluntarily broadcast every minor detail of our lives online, is true luxury actually just the ability to keep a secret?
That's a great question.
If the most famous couple in the world can lock down an entire civic arena, bring in a suspended Alice in Wonderland forest, and keep the photos completely hidden from the internet, maybe privacy is the ultimate status symbol. We used to flaunt what we could show off. Now, the ultimate flex is what you can afford to hide.
It certainly seems that way. They built an impenetrable fortress of privacy right in the middle of the most heavily surveilled, heavily populated city in the world, and they completely pulled it off.
And meanwhile, Tom Brady is just slipping out the side door into the New York night, leaving everyone guessing. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Janie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.